Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
It is episode number 67. Good to be with you here. Last one for the month of April. We made it through, guys. It can usually be a bumpy road, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Maybe not as warm as we would like, but we're getting there in the month of May, which is always a blast here in central Indiana, both with weather and sports. It is right around the corner, so are warmer temperatures, so that's something to look forward to. Hopefully you enjoyed last week's episode. Good to have our newest meteorologist member of Storm Track 8, Ryan Morris, joining us, and we appreciate those of you that have checked out the podcast and reached out. Got an interesting one for you here today. So what we're going to do, a couple of things, is this would be the anniversary. We did a podcast last year around this time on the 10-year anniversary of the super outbreak of 2011, sorry, that hit the Mid-South. Alabama was kind of on the forefront of that. I want to replay part of that interview with Stephen Deanna, one of our meteorologists here, and he's a really good historian when it comes to big weather events like that. But I want to piggyback it off of an interesting article that I read off of AccuWeather.com on Is Tornado Alley Shifting, which could possibly include parts of our state. Everybody kind of remembers Tornado Alley being out in the plains, right? But there may be some new studies that say that may not be the case anymore. So we're going to have both of those things here. That's coming up next here on Weather Weekly.
Audible's romance collection has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what kind of romance you're into, you don't have to choose just one. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, or maybe a steamy billionaire. You could find a book boyfriend in the city and another one tearing it up on the hockey field. And if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm. Discover modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Allie Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, plus Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander. And of course, all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/Wondery. That's audible.com/Wondery.
It is episode number 67 of Weather Weekly here. A brief one here, but an important one. First, before I get to, I know I teased ahead on about Tornado Alley shifting, a very interesting article I read off of AccuWeather.com. I did want to mention, as this podcast will drop on the 27th, it is the 11-year anniversary of one of the worst tornado outbreaks in the history of the United States, and that was the April 27th outbreak of 2011. Over 300 people lost their lives. We did a podcast on that one last year around this time. I believe it was, I don't have the exact number here. I believe it was episode, I can find it actually real quick. It was early on. I want to say it was like episode 11, if I remember correctly. Yes, it was. Episode 11. It aired on April 27th of 2021. So the 10-year anniversary last year. And I do want to play a little snippet of this. This is kind of from the beginning. It was myself and my coworker here, meteorologist Stephen Deanna, who specializes in all of our web stuff here and graphics creation at Wish TV, but also is very knowledgeable on historical weather events. And we'll play a snippet from our talk on that podcast. Again, episode number 11, if you want to check out the full one about the entire day's events. Here it is.
Yeah, April 27th, 2011 it's pretty much like you said, Marcus. You put it perfectly. Like, it's pretty much our modern day benchmark in severe weather history. The old benchmark is 1974. And, of course, there's many comparisons that are made between these two outbreaks. They're pretty much in a league of their own for specific reasons. It's days out from this event, it was noted that this was looking like it was going to be pretty bad. But of course, when you're that far out in the game, you can't really say for sure it's like, oh, it's going to be this bad, but you still can't prepare for what's about to come. So like you said, Marcus, there was still some serious activity beforehand. I do want to know too, Marcus, April had already been pretty active that year. You had the April 9th outbreak in Iowa. You had mid-April through the Plains and the Alabama through North Carolina.
Right.
St. Louis on April 22nd. So you already had some activity, but I'll tell you what, the main show was yet to come, unfortunately, and it started like you said, on April 25th. There was a pretty notable tornado in Arkansas, but that was nothing compared to what was to come.
It was. Here's just some of the kind of the hard notes on the. Now this is for all of the days here, okay, that I have written down. So this is between the 25th and the 28th, and the vast majority of these tornadoes happened on the 27th. Okay, but again, this is kind of the 4-day total. 360 confirmed tornadoes. That is a record for one continuous outbreak. So they're saying between the 25th and the 28th, that's considered a continuous outbreak of severe weather. Okay. The highest winds that were measured came from the Hackleburg Phil Campbell tornado. That was an EF5. That was on the 27th. That was 210 mile per hour winds. The big number, the unfortunate number with this, and it's the largest since the main event that you talked about, the benchmark back in the 70s, 324 casualties. Only 24 of those were non-tornadic. So you're saying 300 people lost their lives due to the tornadoes, and the damage was estimated at $10.2 billion with a B. It is the costliest on record for a tornado outbreak to date. So those are just kind of the hard and fast numbers, and we can dive a little bit deeper on kind of how that day played out. But that's a lot and again, a lot of that, as I said, Stephen, happened mainly on one day, but stretched over 4 days. But unfortunately, most of those, over 300, I know, lost their lives just around the Alabama alone due to the severe weather. And again, that was myself and meteorologist Stephen Deanna here, both from Wish TV and Storm Track 8, just kind of talking about the historical tornado outbreak of 2011 that happened 11 years ago this week. And a lot of those communities are still recovering from that. Pretty devastating. But again, if you want to check out that podcast, again, it is episode number 11 from last year. It's called 2011 Super Outbreak. So make sure you check that out. So I want to piggyback off of that with an interesting article that I came across. Just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about this week. And I went to AccuWeather, and sometimes they have some interesting articles there. And they had one of their headlines right at the top. It said, "Is Tornado Alley shifting?" And I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to kind of hit on some bullet points I thought were interesting here. On average, 1,200 tornadoes hit the United States each year. That's according to the Storm Prediction Center. They're the group that they'll issue the warnings. Or, I'm sorry, not the warnings. The watches around the country for severe weather. But what they have been noting, which in 1952, you got to go back a long way, that the term Tornado Alley was brought into more public common knowledge, right? And everybody kind of knew Tornado Alley between basically, and it was based off of, look, this was old data, 1921 to 1955. They dubbed Tornado Alley basically most of South Dakota, most of Nebraska, most of Kansas, Oklahoma, and northern parts of Texas. That was known as Tornado Alley. Even as data was maybe starting to shift a little bit, especially as early as the 80s, that area was always known as Tornado Alley, that same area. Part of that was, especially in the 90s, and I have a podcast talking about what Twister did for the storm chasing community. It really, that and the evolution of cell phone cameras really kind of changed the game in terms of storm chasing. But there is no better place in the country to chase storms than the Central High Plains. And I went through a whole podcast about, my experience with that. It's just the viewing is it's amazing because there's nothing out there to block you. There's no wooded areas really to speak of. It's wide open spaces, flat as flat can be. You can see storms for miles and miles and miles at a safe distance. And it's still a very popular place to chase. But now with the evolution of social media and people wanting to get their videos paid for by whether it be TV stations or now a lot of people are just doing it on YouTube and they can get some financial gain off that if they get enough viewership and ad revenue. People are chasing just about anywhere. Reed Timmer is a prime example of that. Reed Timmer, very well-known storm chaser. People knew him prior, but he kind of got his notoriety with, I believe, it was called Storm Chasers. It was on Discovery Channel, he was one of three groups that Discovery Channel actually followed around. But he chases now, I believe, for AccuWeather, but he's also kind of independent. He does it for some other people too. He goes around all over the country. He sneaks up into Canada sometimes as well. But what's interesting, to get back to this story on AccuWeather, is that they've concluded that there's a couple of things that are interesting. A study conducted in 2018 showed that the ingredients required to produce long-lived twisters were flourishing more in the Mississippi River Valley in the last 20 years than parts of the original Tornado Alley. Furthermore, the paper says the number of days with meteorological conditions conducive to tornadoes has declined for parts of the original Tornado Alley, while the number of tornado days has increased significantly east of the Mississippi River. Now, I'm not going to go into all the quotes here, but just from reading some of this, I'll give you the cliff notes. Basically, where the new Tornado Alley, what AccuWeather has been saying, and they interviewed some people from NOAA too, so it wasn't just a straight up, research from AccuWeather, but NOAA was involved a little bit in this as well. That the old Tornado Alley, which include Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, still includes parts of those states, but now it's shifted east. So eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, now Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, no surprise. Tennessee, Kentucky, and yes, even southern Illinois and southwestern Indiana can be in this new quote-unquote Tornado Alley because that's where the heightened risks have come between the years of 1985 and 2019 in terms of this new research paper. All right. So kind of interesting. There's a lot of things that go into this. And if you want to check it out, it's still at AccuWeather.com on their homepage. But I'm sure if you do a quick Google search, it goes away from their homepage. You just look for, is Tornado Alley shifting farther east? That's the headline. They talked to some of their meteorologists within AccuWeather, also some people that have done some research on this. There's a few factors that kind of combine into this. Part of it is just an immense amount of heat now that's coming into the Central Plains due to drought conditions to the south and west, and warming temperatures that basically creates a cap over these areas. And we've mentioned this. A cap acts as a lid over the atmosphere and prevents thunderstorm developments if it's strong enough. And so that's been kind of happening in the Central High Plains where that used to be maybe not as strong as a cap, and they were able to break through that cap, and you got severe weather outbreaks in the plains. Another added feature to that is that you've got basically two severe weather seasons especially the deep south, right? And if you're a follower of James Spann, and a lot of you that listen to this podcast, you guys are weather nerds, so you know who James Spann is. He'll say on any of his podcasts or any of his social media posts that severe weather season is all year round down in Alabama. But there are two peaks basically that they have. They're kind of starting to come out of one now, right? It's March and April essentially. And then they start to just kind of get into high heat for the summer. And then they'll get another one come fall. Right. So late October, early November is kind of their second round of severe weather or tornado season. So that kind of adds to the risk of severe weather. Add to that, hurricanes, which can create spin up tornadoes. You're not going to get the long lasting EF5s kind of things that you would see in severe weather season, but that all adds to the totals. It all adds to the totals if you get that. So pretty interesting. Now, just looking at a map so far, updated this season as of actually the 25th, tornado warnings. Now, these aren't confirmed tornadoes, but tornado warnings that have been issued so far. And I should add that, we're just now kind of getting to the peak season for the Central High Plains, late April and then most of May and early June. And that's the same case for us here in Central Indiana. So we've yet to hit our prime yet. Most of the tornadoes, to no surprise, have been in this quote unquote new tornado alley. Eastern Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. Those are where most of the tornado warnings have been. There have also been several in Arkansas, Western Tennessee, Western Kentucky. Those are the real high hit states. What is interesting is South Carolina's had quite a few tornado warnings so far this year. Central and Southern Georgia have also had high tornado warnings this year. So it's just an interesting article. And it's a trend that we have seen the last several years. And you really can date it back to, and that's why I kind of wanted to tie this anniversary, 11-year anniversary of that super outbreak back in 2011 together, because we started kind of seeing that trend a while ago. I think that outbreak really kind of brought it to the forefront, though, because it was such a significant days. It was a multi-day event, but the 27th obviously was the big day where there was unfortunate, massive loss of life that day and just utter destruction. So, something to be aware of. And Indiana's, it is, partially included in that, especially the southern part of the state. So we're starting to see that uptick in the amount of tornadoes that happen across central Indiana. I will mention, it has been extremely quiet the last couple of years in terms of tornadic activity. Which usually means that we're due. Doesn't mean this year, no. But averages are averages for a reason. I've said this before, especially when it kind of pertains to snow, but it works really with a lot of things. Averages are an average for a reason. If you're on the low end for some time, usually there's going to be a high end that's going to kind of equal things out, right? So not saying that that's going to be a thing this year, but certainly, don't let your guard down just because we've had a couple of severe weather seasons that haven't been too significant. It can change in a hurry, and we are getting ready to move into that prime time, May and June, big severe weather months here in central Indiana. So just be on guard and be ready for it. Of course, next week's episode, we'll talk about what's upcoming in May, some of the historical May severe weather events that we've had here in central Indiana as well. We're going to take a look at the last week of April forecast and look ahead to early May. That's coming up next here on Weather Weekly. All right, look at your forecast here for the last week of April, and we'll go ahead and look ahead to May as well. Obviously, we've been on the cool side, and we're kind of stuck there at least through the end of this week with temperatures into the upper 50s for Wednesday and Thursday. That would be the 27th and the 28th. I do think by the 29th, we get back to the mid 60s. That would be on Friday. Watch out for a few shower chances late Thursday night into early Friday morning. And then as we start rolling into the weekend, it looks like the temperature should bounce back closer to average for this time of year, which is typically into the upper 60s. I think we're going to be close to 70 both Saturday and Sunday. Sunday would be May 1st. That will come with some rain chances, so be aware of that. For the weekend, I don't think it rains the entire weekend, but there will be some rain chances that you need to be aware of. Looks like we may be turning that corner. The national blend of models passed the weekend. So that first full week of May, the second on Monday, numbers into the mid 70s. It looks like lower 70s Tuesday, Wednesday, upper 60s to low 70s for Thursday and Friday. So, May is typically the month where we really do kind of start to turn the corner. There can be times that we can get some chilly air kind of working in here in the month of May. We've brought that up. We often say do not plant until Mother's Day weekend, which is looking at the calendar here, the 8th of May. So... and I think it's important to mention the average last freezes in Indianapolis. It's actually April 15th, but the latest date that we've ever had a freeze in Indianapolis, May 27th, 1961. So you can get pretty cold even very late in the month of May. So be aware of that. Hopefully that won't be an issue for us, but it's something to always keep in the back of your mind. Lastly, let's look at the 8 to 14 day outlook. It's still a pretty good signal of temperatures running below the seasonal norms as we go into that first week. Stronger signal up around Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Again, average high for early May is typically around 70 degrees. Does look like we'll probably have a good shot for above average precipitation. We do have the May outlook out and a decent signal that temperatures may remain below average and above average in terms of precipitation. So we'll see if that holds true. But hey, the month of May upon us, which again brings us right into the heart of severe weather season. So make sure you're always staying up to date and alert. Good time to have our Storm Track 8 weather app. That is a free download. They just updated this too, gang. And some people have been kind of a little upset about it. It's been more cosmetic things that have been changed. But my personal opinion, I think it looks a little more clean. So if you haven't checked it out yet, do check it out. And we love our app because it is based on your location. So it will alert you if you're going to be traveling, if there's any warnings or any alerts that are going to be in your area. Good time. You know, I'm a baseball coach dad. You know, I know we're spending a lot of outside time, and even me as a meteorologist, I'm not always keeping my eyes glued to radar sometimes if you're in the heat of the game. So good time to have that alert, and it can get pushed to your watch and all that fun stuff. So check it out. It's free in your app store. Just search for Wish TV Weather in your phone's app store. Thanks for coming along here on episode number 67 of Weather Weekly. The last one for the month of April. We'll get going in the month of May as we traditionally do early in the month. The first one of the month, we'll do a look ahead to the month of May. If you have any suggestions, love to hear them. Shoot me an email, marcus.bailey@wishtv.com. You can also reach out on social media, Marcus Bailey Weather on Facebook and Instagram. And you can also hit me up on Twitter at Marcus Bailey. While you're here, make sure you check out all the other great podcasts, all part of the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.